Hey guys, welcome to day 2 of algebra. Today we talked about order of operations and evaluating expressions. So this was a review, and we talked with order of operations. We remembered the acronym we used to use called Pemdas. All right, we did a little review on that and said that the P stood for the parentheses. Okay, CP. Okay, the E stood for the exponent. The M and D stands for multiplication and division. And the A and the S stands for addition and subtraction. Okay, so if you recall, the reason that the M and the D are at the same level is because they are not necessarily done in the order of multiplication and then division. It's actually either or. Sometimes division can come first, but we read the problem from left to right, and the operation that's to the left actually goes first. Okay, same with addition and subtraction. It means they're at the same level. Okay, the P in PEMDAS is actually more than just parentheses. It's any kind of grouping symbol. Okay, so by a grouping symbol, I mean, well, we group with parentheses, but we can also group, you might see brackets, okay? You could even see parentheses inside of brackets. You can see absolute value bars, okay? You could see radical signs, okay? So those are all considered groupings, and also our fraction bar. Sometimes a fraction bar works as a grouping because you might have some calculations in the numerator and then some calculations in the denominator, and then that big fraction bar works as a grouping. Okay, so let's jump right into it with some of our examples. So when I start out, I like to just kind of review and put PEMDAS here like that, and I put a little arrows to know I go from left to right with the multiplication and division and addition and subtractions. You can do it both ways like that. Okay, so at first glance I look at the number 1 and I think, oh, there's parentheses. But actually, in this case, these are not really grouping parentheses. If there's just one number inside of the parentheses and there's a number on the outside, it actually means we're multiplying. Okay, so in this case, we don't have any exponents, but we do have multiplication and division. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply. In this case, we have 22 plus 15 minus 16. All right, so I just simplified that in the first step. With order of operations, it's really good to write out all your steps. Okay, so now I've got addition and subtraction, but I'm going to start and I'm going to go from left to right. So 22 plus 15 gives me 37. 37 minus my 16 gives me 21. So there's our first answer. All right, number 2, we start out, we don't have any parentheses, but we do have an exponent, 5 to the 3rd power. So we've got 10 plus, and we got to recall exponents. 5 to the 3rd is 5 times 5 times 5. So that's going to be equal to 125 divided by 25 minus 7, okay? So if you have to get your calculator out and use Desmos to calculate that part of it, that's fine, okay? You can. All right. We then are going to do multiplication and division. We don't have any multiplication in the problem. We're going from left to right anyway, and we see we've got 125 divided by 25. So that's going to be equal to 5 minus 7. We go from left to right here because we only have addition and subtraction. 15 minus 7, we get our final answer of 8. Okay, number 3, all right, so we've got our parentheses. All right, so I'm going to do what's inside the parentheses. In this case, we've got exponents inside. So I'm actually going to do both of them. All right, 4 to the 3rd power is 64, and 6 squared is 36. All right, I'm going to continue working in the parentheses. 64 and 36 is 100. And I've got 100 divided by 2, which would then give me an answer of 50. Okay. Now this one looks a little complicated. All right, we've got nested parentheses, okay, and we've got brackets here. Okay, a lot going on. So we're going to start with the innermost parentheses. So that means right in through here, 4 plus 3 squared. And we're going to follow order of operations inside there. So we're going to do our exponent first. I'm just going to rewrite the entire line, 4 plus, and I'm going to evaluate 3 squared, and I get 9 minus 2 to the 3rd divided by 5. Okay, all right, I'm going to continue with my parentheses. So I've got 4 plus 9 is 13, okay, minus 2 to the 3rd divided by 5. Okay, now I'm going to work with my exponent. 2 to the third, so we've got 3. And then we can lose what the parentheses around the 13 because there's just one number in there. So I'm just going to write it as 3 times 13 minus 2 to the third power is going to be 8 divided by 5. Okay, so again, we have a number outside of the grouping. We're just going to calculate the grouping, 3. And this is going to be times 13 minus 8 is 5. So I'm going to actually switch it to parentheses, okay, divided by 5. And we've got 15 divided by 5 because it's multiplication, and we get an answer of 3. Okay. All right. So in class, we actually tried a couple of problems in Desmos, but we're going to do them right here. All right. So 2 to the 4th is you're going to start off with your exponent. 2 to the 4th power is 16. All right. 16 minus 8 divided by 4 plus 6. All right. Now we're going to go to our division, 16 minus 2 plus 6. Okay, 16 minus 2 is 14 plus 6, and we get our 20. Okay, all right, number 6. And at any point, guys, you can stop the video and you can continue, you can pause, you can rewind. Okay, this is really, I'm going forward, I'm going kind of fast, but again, if you're getting it, then it should be fine. If you need to stop and rewind, then you have that ability. Okay, so number 6, I've got both division and multiplication. So remember, I'm going to go from left to right. So I'm actually going to do my division first. 4 plus 16 divided by 2 is 8, minus 8 times 4. Okay, now I'm going to do my multiplication. Negative 4 plus 8, okay, minus 32. Now I've got negative 4 plus 8 is 4. 4 minus 32 is a negative 28. All right. Okay. This was our spread break. You can take it now if you want to. All right, or we're going to jump right into simplifying expressions using given replacement values. Okay, so what does that mean? Here we have variables. So 9m minus 2n, given that m is equal to negative 4 and n is equal to 2. We're just going to plug the values in. Okay, so 9, our m is negative 4, so it's 9 times negative 4 minus 2 times n is 2. Okay, so once we do that, we want to simplify the given expression. That means we want to kind of go down as far as we can. So we're just going to follow our order of operations. This would be negative 36 minus 4, and that would give me an answer of negative 40. Okay, all right, so number 8 gets a little more difficult. Okay, so we've got absolute value bars, and we've got an x. The x is negative 6. Notice I'm going to put that negative 6 in parentheses and square it. Minus 3 times my y. Well, my y is a fraction, 2/3. Close absolute value divided by 2. Okay, now the reason I put the negative 6 in parentheses, this is really important, because if you use your calculator to calculate, to help you, okay, negative 6 squared, you have to put it in parentheses in the calculator because you're telling the calculator to take negative 6 and multiply by itself. Well, we know from yesterday that a negative times a negative is a positive, so we'll get a positive answer. Okay, if you do not put the parentheses around it in the calculator, this is what's going to happen. The calculator is going to calculate 6 squared, which is 36, and then take the negative of it. So it's going to give you an answer of negative 36, which is wrong. You have to force that to be a negative 6. So you have to make sure you do that. All right, so negative 6 squared is 36. All right, and then for the fraction piece, okay, 3 times 2/3, recall multiplying fractions. We make it in proper fraction. So 3 over 1 times 2/3, and then we go straight across. We multiply the numerator times the numerator, which is 6, and the denominator times the denominator, which is 3. We end up with 2. Okay, so we end up with 36 minus 2, absolute value divided by 2. 36 minus 2 is 34. Well, we know that the absolute value of 34 is just 34 because it's not negative. Remember, absolute values, if it was negative, we would have made it positive because it's a distance from 0 on the number line. So we end up with 34 divided by 2, and our final answer is 17 for number 8. Okay, if you guys want to pause the video at any time and try the problems ahead and then come back and check them, you're welcome to do that. Okay, I'm going to go forward and do number 9 and number 10. Okay, so I'm just going to plug in my values. I got 4 times negative 5 minus my negative 2 squared, and this is divided by 6 plus, okay, negative 2. All right, I'm going to do my exponent. So I've got 4 times negative 5 minus negative 2 squared is going to give me 4. Okay, and then I've got 6 plus negative 2. All right, 4 times negative 5 is negative 20 minus 4. And this is going to be divided by 4 because 6 plus negative 2 is 4. Remember, the fraction bar is the grouping. Okay, so I'm going to calculate negative 20 minus 4. I get negative 24 divided by 4, which is going to give me a final answer of negative 6. Okay, and number 10. Okay, I'm going to plug in the values. Negative 3 times my g is negative 1, and we're cubing it to the third power. H is negative 2, and we're squaring it. Okay, all I did was plug these values in. Okay, now I've got to simplify. Okay, so when I do that, negative 1 cubed is going to be a negative 1. Okay, because negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, and positive 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So we end up with a final answer of negative 1, and negative 2 squared is actually positive 4. Okay, negative 3 times 1 is positive 3 times 4. This gives us a final answer of 12. Okay, so as far as order of operations, the first part of the lesson today, these would be the notes for it. We do continue on, okay, and we do have actually 11 and 12. Let me do those, okay, and then we do have verbal expressions. So 11 and 12, I'll go ahead and do these. All right, so I'm going to plug this in. I've got 9 times 10 minus negative 3 squared. Okay, and that's under the radical sign. So this becomes, we do our exponent, all right, 9 times 10 minus negative 3 squared is 9. So this becomes 9 times 10 is 90. 90 minus 9 gives me square root of 81. The square root of 81 is equal to 9. So your final answer would be 9. All right, and then number 12, when we plug in x is equal to negative 8, 2, we have the absolute value of negative 8 squared plus 1, okay, 2 times, and when we have it right next to the absolute values, it just means multiplication. So this is 2 times 64 plus 1, 2 times 65, because 64 plus 1 is 65. So that looks kind of funny, but that is multiplication, and we end up with 130 is our final answer. Okay, the last part of the notes today, we talked about verbal expressions, and these are all words that will help you with word problems. So this page here is really for reference. So when you start interpreting your word problems, you should note the word quantity usually means you need parentheses. Okay, and the numbers will generally stay in order except when you see the words less or from. The keyword than we're going to be looking for. Okay. All right, so let's try to do a few of these, okay? Write an expression for each situation, okay? 13 times the cube of a number, okay? The cube of the number is unknown, so that's going to be our variable. You can use any variable. I'm going to use x, so 8 times it would be 8 times x, and it's the cube of the number, so we're taking it to the third power. The sum means addition. The square of a number would be to the second power. Addition, and we're adding right here 4. The sum is of the square of a number, and 4 would be x squared plus 4. 10 times the sum of a number and 9. So the sum of a number, the number is x, and 9, that's our sum. But since it's 10 times it, we've got to be careful to put that in parentheses, okay, because we're multiplying it by the sum of both of those numbers. So be careful where you put your parentheses in. 18 fewer. Here's that keyword than I was talking about. So when you have fewer, if you have the word than, instead of saying 18 minus, the 18 is going to go after if the word than is. So 3/4 of a number, the number is x, so 3/4 of a number would be 3/4 x, and we're taking away 18 because it's fewer, so it's minus 18. All right, if that word than was not there, it would be 18 minus 3/4 x. All right, the quotient. Quotient is division, all right, and remember in algebra we use the division bar. So we're taking the quotient of 8 and twice a number. We don't know what the number is, so that's 8 divided by 2x. And finally, 5 less than 3 times the number x. So 3 times the number x would be 3x, and it's less. Notice there's no word than, okay? That means the 5 comes first. If we did have the word than after the less, it would be after it, okay? I know this was a lot. It will make a lot more sense when we start going through more and more examples through the year of word problems. But for this week, for today on day 2, we really focused on the order of operations. I hope this video helped. Bye.